Hello, dear viewers and listeners, and welcome to another episode of Voice the Sasha Poshcast, your go to podcast for all things posh. I am your host, Shweta Bhatt, and in this episode, we look at some of the challenges and best practices for prevention of sexual harassment in the healthcare sector in India. Sharing their insights with us in this episode are our two guests. Roli Verma, Regional Head, Eastern Region and member of the Apex Posh Committee, Narayana Health, and Sophia Joseph, General Manager, Human Resources and Presiding Officer of the Internal Committee, Cloud9 Hospitals. Both our guests talk about some of the unique challenges their industry and their organizations have faced, especially in the pandemic, and some insightful practices that have worked for them. Without further ado, let's dive right in. What has changed in the healthcare industry due to the pandemic? What are some of the trends you are noticing when it comes to new ways of working?
For healthcare industry, the work related environment, there was not so much of a difference as it had impacted the other places. Having said the same, what we faced was that when there were limited number of people that we had to have in the hospital based on the occupancies or based on the footfalls of the patients coming, we did reduce the other people who were coming, like who could work from home. This was only for around 2 months because that was also during the first phase. And post that, all of us were working at the ground level from the hospital itself.
Historically, healthcare is not one of those industries that honestly believes in working from home or not really being physically there. And suddenly, this entire shift has been a paradigm shift for us, and for us to believe that we can actually manage to run the show by not quite being there itself is a feat. And we actually managed to achieve it. So currently, owing to the entire pandemic that started in 2020, and of course it has continued in 2021, we have moved into a more hybrid work style. In my mind, it's a very different approach towards work. I have worked in the healthcare industry for over 15 years. Honestly, I would not have thought that come a day we would see people working alternatively from home and from different areas remotely and actually managing to get things done. So, also from a customer or patient's mindset, it's very important for them to have the physical connect and contact with healthcare expert. It becomes very difficult when it's remote. Although I do know that we are moving towards the whole digital age. I still believe that it's always better while we still have online consults and all of these things, going on in the background. I would much rather want to meet up with the doctor and I want that person to, feel my pulse and talk to us. I suppose it's kind of hardwired. But of course, we also believe that it's not entirely rational. Things can get done without actually having the whole physical meet and greet. And it has definitely been a change for us. It is an eye-opener.
How has POSH implementation changed in your organization since the start of the pandemic last year?
When we started, we did have immediately, I think in the beginning of the pandemic only, we had two cases. And then, yes, the challenge was now how to handle it because we cannot be there. In physical presence was not there. And the first case we had was of, a little middle level group. And we knew that technically they are not so advanced. So our challenge was, to first talk to them on telephone calls, one-to-one, explain to them that how we would be working on this, how we will be getting both the parties together, how we will be listening. Also, another challenge was that the committee members were all in different places, getting them together, discussing with them. So I think though we managed to do it, but it took a longer time, like what we could have done physically. We realized that it is very important for our team members to know that we are available, even though we are at home, but we are available for them. So then unit wise, we started to inform people that, okay, we are available. And it was one-to-one communication, not just for POSH. Generally, also, they should know that there are people to support them. We ensured that we are available. And we made our numbers, our availability communicate it to them so that they can just pick up their phones and reach out to us.
Posh is this is something that we consider very important, very significant, and it's not really an initiative for us. It is a way of life. So for us, it was a matter of shifting gears and trying to identify what we can do and how we can go about doing this to ensure what we were doing continues. And the employee is aware of things that we do. We were always very consistent with our training session. For us, it was really a matter of understanding how we can continue doing what we did, but perhaps in a different way, because our sense of working really suddenly changed. It's not really all of us under the same roof. We have ensured that most of our training, while we still continue doing classroom sessions, but it has not really, while the audience really is not as much, we have incorporated a lot of digital learning, digital training modules, exercises, etc., which are also in line with the norms of social distancing, COVID, the pandemic, etc.
Have you come across any complaints that are specific to or directly related to the pandemic, or those that have happened during the vaccination or treatment process? What is your opinion on the news of various incidents of sexual harassment in the healthcare sector during the lockdowns?
Shweta, very clearly, our people who are at the ground level, they are very much aware that whether it is vaccination, whether it is patient care, there are two things that we follow religiously. One is whenever there is a female patient or a female person coming around, or maybe a female staff who is there, it's a protocol right from starting from a doctor to a nursing staff. If suppose a male nurse is there, they will not treat that person until unless a female staff is also there. So we follow that very religiously. And also we ensure that suppose there are only female patients or females there, we at least for nurses, we ensure that female nursing staff should be there. Like a male nursing staff or a male vaccinator may not be vaccinating a female. As a part of the clinical protocol, they have to take the consent of the female patient or the patient before they physically examine or do anything. Now here, because there is a very thin line between a touch for a physical examination or a normal touch or a touch which is not acceptable.
What challenges have you faced in ensuring compliance, organizing sessions, etc., in the current scenario?
For us, sessions have been always classroom driven. While compliance really is just a matter of checking the box, getting our documentation in place, I think getting people to understand the gravity of the situation, to understand really what the do's and don'ts and how to understand and how to kind of raise the red flag has always been done in the confines of a room. And honestly, we never thought that training by itself could be okay and have the kind of desired effects that we wanted to see should we move it to a digital platform. So for us, that seemed to be a little bit of a mind shift to think that we can actually do this the digital way and get people to understand and essentially buy in that thought. This was a challenge for us, both in terms of organizing it and also getting people to involve themselves. But that said, what we do realize is regardless of what mode of training we actually manage to get done, should the trainer be effective, and I've actually seen this with a lot of sessions which was conducted even by Sasha, should the trainer be effective enough, I think the infra which is required or the modalities of meeting, be it within a classroom or outside, is honestly insignificant and irrelevant. So we did have challenges, yes, to begin with, but we realized soon enough that there are no more challenges should we kind of alter our ways and our own thinking and our perspective.
Yes, it has been different because naturally we have not had any classroom sessions. Like up till now, we are not doing any classroom sessions for any kind of trainings. So especially post trainings, where you have to demonstrate a lot of things and show them. So it becomes difficult to do that online. At the same time, our training team has been very, very efficient on doing so and supported us because We have a Accelerate online app, which is available to all our employees online on their phones. Also, they can download it. This is an internal NH app, which has got all training documents, all trainings available for them. We do face challenges when it comes to doctors because it is difficult for them to take out time and undergo those trainings. But as because it is a very integral part from our management that even our clinicians should be aware of everything. So it becomes mandatory for them also to undergo these training programs.
How do you maintain documentation during and after inquiries are complete?
It helps when you have in-house protocols available. So we have set protocols which are already there with all the units, and all the unit members have that. HR does take the initiative to do the full documentation based on the protocols. So I would like to share with you, we have a portal for all the employees of Narayana Health called Nest portal, that is Narayana Employee Self-Service tab. Now, when you go on that tab, the policy is written there. So this portal is accessible to each and every employee of the hospital. When you go onto the portal, it has got all the policies onto the tab. The POSH policy is also there. So each and every individual, any employee who wants to see, who wants to read, can go on that and read it. It has got all the formats that if someone wants to make a complaint, what is the format to be used? So there are steps which are followed. And due to having set protocols, we cannot have any lapses or any lack of documentation on any kind of case. Because if our Apex committee finds that we have not done something correctly, they will revert back to us that kindly do this as well. So we have a second check to it.
How often does your internal committee meet as a whole when not dealing with a case or a complaint?
We do this every quarterly, not only because it's kind of like an expected, like a mandate, but even otherwise, we do believe that, it's important for the IC members to know who the other person is. We have exits sometimes, we have new people who are being nominated. So it's always good to kind of at least have that forum to quickly connect. So we do this every quarterly, so it's 4 times specifically in the units. I do know at corporate it is biannually. We don't do this every quarter, but for all practical purposes, every quarter we have an IC meet. Also, for the purpose of documentation, we ensure that people sign out and and have a common acknowledgement that there have been no cases which have come in this particular quarter, and everybody is in alignment to that.
How do you ensure that your employees find internal committee members approachable?
Our committee comprises of representatives of all groups. So we have a doctor, we have a nurse, we have a administrative senior person, we have a HR person. So what happens is a doctor letting himself out to a fellow doctor is easier. A nurse letting herself out to a fellow nurse is easier. So that is how we have made it more approachable, that okay, and they also feel that comfort level that a doctor may understand a doctor's problem or a doctor's concern. A nurse may understand what the nurses go through or what are their protocols or how do they follow. So we have tried to have a representation which is from all groups, because we have varied groups. Other industries may not have these kind of groups like we have. Also, there is a difference, from the kind of employees we have. They are from different demographics. They are from different cultural backgrounds. They are from different areas coming together and working together. So culturally, when you are different, something may be correct in one culture may not be correct in another culture. But when we have these kind of people who are put together as the IC members, they can understand that better. They can relate to them better. And I think that helps us to, approach them or give the employees the comfort level to which person they can approach. Also, we are very clear to them that, okay, anything happens, you can pick up the phone and call us at any point of time, day, night, off duty, on duty, anytime you can do that. So that helps us. Sometimes we also feel that, when someone has lodged a complaint, they are scared that maybe the respondent may try to harass them or may get back to them at any point of time. We ensure that we personally give our phone numbers to the complainants and tell them that in case you have any problem at any point of time, please let us know. We also sensitize their immediate supervisors. Sometimes we find that they may not be able to reach out to us, or open up to us so much, as much as they would do with their immediate supervisors. So we also speak to the supervisors and tell them that in case of anything, please inform us immediately, which does happen.
Could you talk about some of the best practices that have worked for you?
I think the best practice is that our employees know that there is a zero tolerance as far as POSH is concerned. We have our APEX committee is headed by the senior most people of the organization. They are aware that if they are not satisfied with the unit committee, they can escalate the matter to the next group of people. Also, we are very open to create ad hoc committees where whenever we find that a complainant is not comfortable with the local committee or maybe that region's committee, we have Pan India NH hospitals. We create an ad hoc committee in no time to make the person comfortable so that they can open up and they can tell us what their issues are. The kind of importance this is given from the management level itself, from the chairman itself, it is so important that it percolates down to all the IC members that this is zero tolerance, and the IC members have the benefit and the support of the management to do full inquiry and interrogation in the best possible way.
I know it might sound very cliched and maybe not too much, but I honestly believe that great things can happen with, getting very few normal, ordinary things in place. And we have spoken about this earlier as well, but I honestly believe talking about it is a big deal. This is something that we have been doing extensively. When I say talking about it, it's just not about a poster here or like a video there or a WhatsApp random message, but every get together that we possibly have, be it in units or at say the corporate. It could be a skip level, it could be a coffee with the CEO, it could be an open house that we might have, it could be a town hall. Every meeting where we have congregations, we always at some point in time manage to slip in the fact that we believe in ensuring that this is something which is upheld. We also believe in ensuring that for what we communicate about the fact that we believe in ensuring that we do not have a hostile environment for anybody, male or female, and should anybody feel that they have been met at this kind of treatment, to reach out to us at any given point in time.
What advice would you give to an organization in the healthcare industry which may be struggling with creating safe and inclusive workplaces in a post-pandemic world?
I believe, Shweta, what is really important, and we have spoken about this previously as well, is to have talk groups. Our reaction is very knee-jerk, and we are always in a firefighting mode. We believe that if we talk, we say the right things, we say it at the right moment, and we get people to hear us. Invariably, we are kind of ensuring that our environment is safe, and for people who believe that there's absolutely nothing happening in their respective organizations because they're going exactly by the book and they're doing XYZ as prescribed, honestly are living in a bubble. What we need to do is to have talk groups. We need to be more, should I say, we need to start the battle even before the war begins. What we need to do is to call in people in groups. It could be heterogeneous groups, it could be homogeneous groups, and have conversations, throw in topics about what a person feels, given case studies, get people to talk. Only when people realize that it's okay to talk about such contentious topics, is according to a lot of people, or topics which are so sensitive, will they realize that this is just not done. And should it happen either to them or to somebody they know or do not know, will voices be raised and will it reach out to organizations? So for organizations to be more proactive, we need to kind of think different. We need people talk about their experiences, talk about what they feel, how they feel, why they feel the way they feel, in scenarios which are specific to this. Make people more open, make them believe that what is happening is not the fault of the concerned person. Make them understand that it's okay to talk about something should it happen to them, and the fact that the organization is going to be there to by their side and have their back. Why are we waiting for people to walk through that door? I mean, gather courage and walk through that door feeling like victims, while we can go up to them and tell them that this is okay, and if anything happens, you're already there for them. I think this is probably a more proactive approach in ensuring your employees really know that they are working in a safe environment.
I think giving the comfort to the employees and communicating it to them that we are there for them at any point of time, we are approachable, and we follow a zero tolerance on this, will give them the comfort level. As healthcare, we know that our nearly 60 to 70% staffs are nursing staffs, which are mostly females. We have to ensure safety. At Narayana Health, we also encourage more and more. If you see our gender percentages, we have nearly 60% female staffs and 40% male staff. So having said so, the reason why we have 60% to 65%, our targets are much higher than that, is to ensure them, to give them that comfort that this is a safe environment for you to work in. And that is why I personally feel that people are encouraged, and my colleagues from the female gender are encouraged to join Narayana Health, because probably they know that this is a place where they get the safe environment to be there.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell us in closing?
I think it flows from the top. So any organization, the topmost people should be able to sensitize and communicate to all the members, all the team members.
Yeah.
So from top to the people down the line should be knowing exactly that this is a zero tolerance policy in a particular organization, and the organization ensures the safety of its employees. That is the most important message that should go to each and every person who is there, who is a team member. And I think with that comfort, we can solve any problem.
I would not call myself a feminist, but I truly believe that as a woman, it's my job to raise my voice and herald women like me to speak up. It's sad because we sit in our AC offices, etc., and talk so much about women's lib, and really the situation is so different. The most easy thing for one to do is to shut up, because they believe that, like I already told you, it's virtuous of you to be patient and to take this, because a woman is made of abundant patience, and of course she should. I believe otherwise. I feel a woman is a woman of substance. I feel she needs to voice out, and she needs to call out when things are not, when things are, when there's a misdeed and when things are not being done right. So for every woman out there, harassment is just a form of oppression, and if something like that happens, one has to step up, one has to voice out, and one has to take action, regardless of what you believe the result would be, because the change is you, and if you don't do it and it doesn't start with you, then neither will the next person besides you.
And that was the episode, dear viewers and listeners. We are very grateful to our guests, Roli Verma and Sophia Joseph, for sharing their insights with us so generously. What thoughts are you left with? What questions do you have? What ideas have these inspired for your own organization? Do write to us at voice@sashaindia.com with your comments and your queries. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to learn more, do also remember to follow us on social media and subscribe to receive our monthly newsletter, Voice. Until we meet again, stay safe, and remember, together we can prevent, protect, and progress.